He started with something small, so small that most people would probably ignore it. But sometimes the smallest things are the ones that change everything. It was a Thursday evening, and I was doing something I had done hundreds of times before, unpacking my husband's work bag. He had just come home from a 3-day business trip. While he showered upstairs, I was in the kitchen putting away the things he brought back.
Laptop, charger.
A folder full of printed documents. Nothing unusual, until my hand touched something heavy at the bottom of the bag. At first I thought it was a power bank, but when I pulled it out and looked at it, my stomach tightened. It was a phone. Not his phone. A different one. My husband had owned the same phone for 2 years. I knew exactly what it looked like. This one was older. Black case.
No scratches.
Almost like it had been kept hidden. For a few seconds, I just stood there staring at it. Maybe it was a coworker's phone. Maybe someone had accidentally left it in his bag. Those explanations sounded reasonable. Until the screen lit up. A new message appeared. Did she suspect anything? My heart skipped. I looked at the contact name. There wasn't one. Just a number. My hands suddenly felt cold. Upstairs, I heard the shower running, which meant my husband had no idea what I was holding. The message notification disappeared after a moment, but the phone didn't lock, which meant something important. It wasn't protected. No password.
No fingerprint.
Nothing. I hesitated for only a second. Then I opened the message. The conversation filled the screen instantly. Hundreds of messages, all between my husband and the same number. The first line I read made my chest tighten. 3 days with you wasn't enough. I slowly sat down at the kitchen table. My heart was beating louder with every message I scrolled past. Hotel reservations, travel plans, private jokes, and then I saw something worse. Photos. Photos of places I recognized. The restaurant where my husband said he had business meetings. The hotel he claimed his company booked for conferences. But the messages didn't sound like work. Not even close. They sounded like two people who believed they were completely alone. I stopped scrolling when I reached the newest message. The one that had appeared seconds earlier. Did she suspect anything? For a moment, I stared at those words. Then I looked toward the staircase. The shower water was still running. He had no idea. No idea that the secret phone he thought was hidden was sitting in my hands. Most people would confront him immediately, demand answers, start shouting. But I didn't. Instead, I did something else. Something quieter. Something far more patient. I placed the phone exactly where I found it, at the bottom of the bag. Then I finished unpacking the rest of his things. When my husband came downstairs 15 minutes later, he smiled like nothing had happened. "How was your day?" he asked. "Good," I said calmly. We sat down to dinner together. We talked about ordinary things.
Work.
Groceries. Weekend plans. And the entire time, he had no idea that one small phone had just destroyed every lie he thought was safe. For the next 2 days, I pretended nothing had happened. I smiled. I laughed at his jokes. I listened to his stories about work meetings and travel plans. From the outside, everything looked exactly the same. But inside, everything had changed. Because now I knew the truth. And more importantly, I had the second phone. The first night after finding it, I waited until my husband fell asleep. The house was quiet. The clock in the hallway read 1:12 a.m. when I slowly slipped out of bed. His breathing was steady beside me. Deep sleep.
Perfect.
I walked downstairs carefully and opened his work bag again. The second phone was still there, exactly where I had left it. I turned on the screen. Another message had arrived. "I miss you already." I sat at the kitchen table and began reading the conversation from the beginning. This time I didn't stop after a few messages. I read everything. The messages stretched back almost a year. 1 year of lies. Trips he said were business conferences. Late nights at the office. Weekend. Work emergencies. Every message filled in another piece of the story he had been hiding, and the more I read, the clearer it became. The woman believed something very different from what I did. According to the messages, my husband had told her he was separated, that our marriage was already over, that we were only living in the same house temporarily, which meant he was lying to both of us. But one message caught my attention more than the others. It had been sent only 3 hours earlier. "When are you going to tell her?" I stared at those words. Then I read my husband's reply.
Soon.
"I just need the timing to be right." Timing. That word made me laugh quietly, because the timing had already changed. I opened the contact information attached to the number. There was a name hidden there. Lily. So now she had a name. And thanks to social media, it didn't take long to find her. Within minutes, I had her profile open. Her photos were public. Travel pictures, conference events, restaurants, and one photo made my stomach drop. It showed her standing outside a hotel, the same hotel my husband had stayed at during his last business trip. I leaned back in the chair slowly. Everything made sense now, but something else became clear too. Lily didn't know the truth. She believed my husband's story, which meant she thought I was the problem, not him. I looked back at the phone in my hand, at the hundreds of messages, at the lies carefully built between two people who thought no one else would ever see them. Most people would have sent an angry message right then, exposed everything, but I didn't. Instead, I did something different. I saved Lily's number. Then I locked the phone and placed it back inside my husband's bag, because the truth is far more powerful when you reveal it at the perfect moment. And that moment was coming very soon. 3 days later, my husband told me he had another conference. He said it casually while we were eating breakfast. "I'll probably be gone overnight," he added. "Just meetings and presentations." I nodded. Okay. The lie sounded exactly like all the others, except this time, I already knew where he was going. The hotel name had appeared several times in the messages on the second phone. So that evening, after he packed his bag and left the house, I waited 20 minutes. Then I grabbed my keys. The drive to the hotel took less than 30 minutes. When I arrived, I parked across the street where I could clearly see the entrance. The same place Lily had posted in her photo. I didn't go inside. Instead, I picked up my phone and opened the contact I had saved. Lily. For a moment, I stared at the screen. Then I typed a message. "I think you should know the truth." The reply came almost instantly. "Who is this?" I wrote back. "The woman he told you he was separated from." There was a long pause. Then the typing dots appeared and disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, a message arrived. "What are you talking about?" I opened my photo gallery. The screenshots I had taken from the second phone were ready. I sent 3 of them. The conversation between her and my husband. His messages promising he would tell his wife soon. And the photo he had sent her from our living room only 2 nights earlier. 5 seconds passed. Then her reply came. "That's your house." "Yes." Another pause. This one lasted longer. Then she wrote something that told me everything I needed to know. He told me he lived alone. I leaned back in the car seat, because that meant the lie had been even bigger than I thought. Then another message appeared. "What room is he in?" I looked up at the hotel building. "3rd floor," I replied. "Room 312. The typing dots appeared again. But this time the message didn't come from Lily. Instead, the hotel entrance door opened, and a woman stepped outside quickly. She looked exactly like the photos I had seen. Lily. She stopped on the sidewalk and looked around the parking lot.
Her phone was still in her hand.
Then she saw my car. For a moment, we just looked at each other. No words.
No anger.
Just understanding. She walked over slowly and stopped beside my window. "I didn't know," she said quietly. "I believe you," I replied. She looked up at the hotel building, then back at me. "What are you going to do?" I thought about it for a moment. Then I smiled slightly. "Nothing. Her eyebrows lifted in surprise. Nothing. He already told enough lies for both of us. She nodded slowly. Then she said something I didn't expect. I think he should explain them. With that, she turned and walked back toward the hotel entrance. A few minutes later, the lights in room 312 turned on. Voices echoed faintly through the open balcony door. Not calm voices. Not quiet conversations. Loud ones. Angry ones. I started the car engine gently because I didn't need to stay and watch the rest. The truth had already arrived. And sometimes the most powerful revenge is simply letting two lies collide. I drove home quietly. The house felt peaceful when I walked inside. For the first time in weeks, my mind was completely calm. Because the second phone that had once been hidden in my husband's bag had just exposed everything.